how excited we are about this tour that you've put together. So, I just can't put it into words. Congratulations on such a fantastic idea, and we cannot wait for it.
I'm hoping from your mouth to God's ears. I'm hoping that it's a success for everybody. And you know what, honestly, dude, after 2.5 years of COVID bullshit, I'm just excited to get back to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So how have you spent that time? Because you're a musician that is always kept so busy. How did you spend that time when you were unable to get out there and do shows?
Well, I took Pro Tools classes and learned how to record music. I don't know if you've heard them or not, but I've released a couple of new songs.
Yep.
One is called Corabi, and the other one is called Your Own Worst Enemy. And I just kind of took the classes, and I'm like, man, I was just one of those guys that I would write music and then go into a recording studio with, great producers. And, but I would say, oh, hey, get me that George Harrison guitar sound or this guitar sound, or, and I never was like hands-on with it. So I had to learn how to do it. And as it turned out, I took the classes, and then I just went to work and started recording myself. So those 2 songs I basically recorded on a laptop in a bedroom.
Wow.
Pretty much got them to the point where I thought they sounded pretty good. I still don't know everything, so thank God I have Marty Fredrickson in my corner. But I'll record a song and do a vocal and get it as close as possible to being finished. And then I give it to Marty, and then he does his magic to it and makes it sound like a polished, awesome recording. So I did all that, wrote the book, and I've just been stockpiling ideas. So I've released 2 songs. I'm getting ready to release a third, and I've just got, it takes me still a little bit longer than the next guy because I'm still new to it, but I've got a ton of ideas that I'm just constantly, writing lyrics or just putting some little guitar part down or, fixing drums or doing whatever. So it takes me a little longer than the normal, but, at least I'm moving forward.
Do you think that it's given you a new freedom being able to record like that as well? I spoke to a band the other day who, during COVID, set up a recording studio in their basement because all the recording studios here were closed for 2 years. And they said now whenever they get an idea for a track, they just go down to the basement and record.
Well, there's that. And, also the thing that you don't really have someone standing over your shoulder. Now, mind you, that can be good and bad. I'm left to my own devices. So sometimes I'll record, like Your Own Worst Enemy, for example. I probably recorded that whole song like 3 or 4 times. I would come up with a chorus, and then I would go, God. Yeah, I'd listen to it a couple days later and then come back to it and go, no, it's not right. And I would erase everything and start over. But there is some freedom to it because you're not spending a shit ton of money for a recording studio, and you don't have someone standing over your shoulder. So, for example, a song like Corabi was a little bit out of my wheelhouse of songs that I had done in the past. A little bit, not really. But it was like, that's what I heard in my head. I recorded it. I gave it to Marty. He understood what I wanted, and he just enhanced it like unbelievably. So there's that freedom of not having someone stand over your shoulder saying, no, it's not an A chord, do an E chord here, or I want to do this part. Like it's just me by myself, and then Marty. You know what I mean? So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, definitely. Now, how do you feel about being able to head back to Australia? We've been feeling like an island even more so over the last few years with our borders closed. So how does it feel being able to head back to Australia and bringing your music to your Aussie fans?
Honestly, dude, I'm stoked. Again, I haven't done shit since March of 2020. 2019 was the last year that I was there. I think in 2019 I did 100 shows.
Yep.
And since March of 2020, I think I've done 15 shows.
Yep.
So I'm first of all excited to get back to work, and B, I've always had a great time with the Australian fans. They've been amazing, and hugely supportive. Even like with the new songs, like I noticed these digital distribution centers, they kind of give you a breakdown of the top 10 countries or cities or whatever, and Australia's always in the top 5 or 10. You know what I mean? So I love coming down there and hanging out with you guys.
Are you able to use those streaming platforms as well to work out what tracks you should play for the Australian leg of the tour as well? Because I know some bands have been using that, knowing, oh, hang on a minute, Australians seem to like this track that I wrote 10 years ago that I don't play very often anymore. Is that something that you'd think about doing as well?
No, I don't really. Honestly, the acoustic shows that I do are so loose and so off the cuff. I don't even write a set list. I just go, and I try to refresh myself on a bunch of different things, and then I just kind of let her rip. And depending on, like I've done it before, where somebody will yell out "October Morning Wind." And I'm like, oh man, I haven't played that for a while. Okay, let me give it a shot. Let me see if I can get through it, and I'll just do it. It's very loose. Like I said, I tell some stories. I try to make it as comical as possible. I fuck with a lot of the people in the audience. I kid with them and joke, and all in good fun. But I've even had some where somebody yelled something, and I would just say, hey, man, if you guys have any questions, just let's hear them. And I'll sit, and I've done some things where it turns into instead of being a storyteller acoustic show, it's like a storyteller acoustic, jokes, cover songs, and a Q&A.
Yeah.
So it's just really loose. I just want everybody to have fun, and I would love nothing more than to be able to pencil Australian into my calendar once a year. You know what I mean?
Yeah. These shows always feel like the artist has their heart on the line. Like, these kind of shows show how much an artist respects their audience and loves their audience. How does it feel for you doing these kinds of shows? Do you feel that love and respect there as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's hit or miss, because there's still a lot of fans. I don't know how it'll be there in Australia, but even here in America, like I've had a few fans go, hey dude, I love the acoustic shows, but fuck, I just want to hear you rock out. So there's still that thing too, where people are like, man, Corabi came, but it was an acoustic show. I want to see him rock out. But for the most part, the responses have been killer. It's been great. Like I said, I'm just starting to get back to work again, but up until COVID, man, it was fun, man. I was getting great responses from everybody. And even Danny and I talked when I was down there doing the Motley shows in 19. And he said, man, I'd love to have you come down and just do a bunch of acoustic stuff. And I'm like, just let me know, man. That'd be fun. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, it shows. The thing that I like about acoustic is you are naked. Like it's like there's no gimmicks. There's nothing to hide behind. Like if my voice cracks, it cracks. You can hear it. And I like that intimacy. I like that it's stripped down and naked, and people can really focus on the lyrics and the meaning of the song. So I'm looking forward to it.
With the Q&A side of it, how do you feel about that? Because I know a lot of artists, when you do an interview or if you do a press conference, we're given a list of questions that we can't ask and stuff like that. Are you ever worried that someone's going to ask something you don't want to talk about?
You'll never get one of those from me.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm an open book, man. Ask me. Now, if it gets to the point where, I put a new song out and I spend, 95% of the interview talking about, the size of Tommy Lee's dick, then yeah, I'm going to go, hey, can we talk? But I don't really care, man. It's like my history it's common knowledge. I've got nothing to hide. I have no regrets. Like, I am what I am. If you like it, awesome. If you don't, that's why they make more than one flavor of ice cream.
Yep. Yeah.
All good.
Have you ever had audience members share stories with you about how a certain song of yours has meant something important to them during their life, like something like getting them through a rough stage in their life or anything like that? And how does that affect you when you hear somebody say that a song might have drawn them away from suicide or something deep like that?
It's odd because you kind of sit there and you go, like, naturally you want to go, why were you that upset that you felt that was your only way out? I'm glad that I could help in some minute little manner, but I've had fans tell me, like, oh, I listened to this one song, I was going through a breakup with my wife or my girlfriend, or so I have had things like that. It's when they get really intense, like, I've had a few say I was thinking of committing suicide, and I heard the lyrics to this one song, and I can't tell you what it means to me. And normally I'll give them a hug and go, listen, man, like, I get desperation. We've all had moments of desperation, but nothing should make you that desperate. And I'll try and give them some little pep talk or whatever, but for the most part, that's an odd thing to hear from people.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned also that your life is an open book, and of course you've been working on your autobiography. Tell us a little bit about that journey. What sparked you wanting to write an autobiography, and what was it like going back over your life when you were putting pen to paper?
Well, to be honest with you, I hadn't even thought about doing a book until I came to Australia in 2019, and I was hanging out with my lovely Australian friend, Paul Miles. And Paul kind of put things into perspective. Like, he was talking to me about it, and I'm like, nah, dude, like, everybody's doing a book now. Like, if it would have been 15 years ago, 20 years ago, maybe. But now it's like everybody's done a book. Roadies have done books. Now bands are doing, like, cookbooks. And I'm like, oh, my God. But he said something to me that kind of stuck with me, and he said, listen, man, like, even though you were in the dirt, there's very little information about you out there on, like, just in the network. And he said, I think that even though you were touched on a little bit in the dirt, there's still a lot about you that people don't know. He said, you're like this weird little enigma that will come out of the woodwork, and you'll tell everybody, like, hey, check out my new music. And he goes, and then you completely disappear again until the next record. And he said, I think a lot of your fans would be interested to see what makes Corabi tick. So we sat down and we started working on it, and you know, trust me, we went back and forth. Like, it was like write, rewrite, edit, re-edit, and you know, we did that like 8 times, 10 times. We just went back and forth with the whole book. Finally got it to the point where it was, and we, you know, it's published. It should be out like right around the time that I get down there to Australia. But it was funny. It was like reliving certain things that were pleasant. It made me smile. And then there was other things where, you know, when I was reading about like divorces with wives and, you know, breakups with certain bands, and I kind of got a little bit of a stomach ache. I was like, oh God, like I totally remember how I felt at that point. And so it was interesting, but in some way cleansing as well.
Did you find because of that you had to write it in stages? Like, was there times when you were working on it and you were just like, okay, I've written this, but now I need to give myself a little bit of time before I approach the next part?
No, because again, like I didn't write the book with the intent of pissing anybody off or throwing anybody under the bus.
Yep.
This was me really truthfully just explaining to everybody like what it felt like in my perspective to get that phone call to join, say, Motley.
Yep.
Or what it felt like to like have sex for the first time, or what it felt like to divorce my wife, all the things that I was going through mentally and physically and emotionally. And you know, so I wasn't like, even though I was kind of stomach aching about certain, it never got to the point where I felt like I had to walk away from it and put it away.
Yep.
And take a break. I just wanted to, I was happy with how it came out. And I was excited I wanted, honestly, somebody else to read it. The publishing company, when they did read it, one of the things that they mentioned to us is that most autobiographies are like 300 pages. Mine is almost 470.
Wow.
They read the book and basically said it's a really easy read. Like, the stories are so interesting and so, whatever word you want to use. Like, the owner of the publishing, he read it and he was concerned about the length. And then he read it, and I didn't find that it was at any time boring. So then he made everybody in the office read it, and they all came back and they said, man, I wouldn't edit this at all.
Yep.
So that's the other thing. Paul and I really wanted to make sure that, you know, let's face it, books aren't cheap anymore. So I just wanted everybody to, enjoy the story, enjoy the ride, but also get their money's worth. You know what I mean?
Definitely. Well, John, I cannot wait to read it, and I know we are running out of time very, very quickly. So to finish up, what would you like to say to all of your Australian fans out there before they go out and grab tickets for these amazing shows?
Honestly, I cannot wait to see you guys. I'm so stoked to come down and hang out down there. You know, I think I'm going to be there like overall about 2 weeks. So I'm really stoked about it, really excited. And again, I can't thank the Australian fans enough. Like, the support from you guys has been brilliant from day one. So I'm looking forward to it. Let's just get down and have some fun, man. We've been cooped up in the house for 2.5 years. Let's play some music and have some fun together.